I can go through it. So today,
Right.
I'm about to explain how to convert your ideas into a product or project, and then go through a brief introduction of product and project management. So here I am, Gunashekhar. I graduated from UK. I'm a mechatronics engineer, a researcher, innovator, and a project planner. So when we dive into the webinar, let me share my screen.
Hello, ma'am.
Let me try it. Why couldn't I just... trying to share it, but couldn't find it. So can you all see the webinar? Just put in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can see that.
I hope you guys can see that, right?
Yes.
Could you reply to that? Yeah. So this is a content what I was about to say. So in this webinar, I'm going to discuss about product lifecycle and the project management. So I'll just give a brief introduction about it too. So when the contents of this are like now I'm going to discuss about introduction and the difference between innovation and invention. So then like what is an idea, or like the concept and the difference between concept and idea, and like the basic definition of a project and product, and like a kind of little bit brief introduction about product life cycle and the difference between project and product. So basically, so when we go through the introduction, we all are aware of that nothing is permanent in this world, like neither the technology or the products we have been using now. So if you remember, like Motorola has developed the first mobile phone. It was really bulky, right? It was really heavy. And now the mobile phones, we have the smartphones in our hands. We can access the entire world information at our fingertips. So the technology has changed and a lot of revolutions happened. But lost the like old Motorola phones are not available now. So like the technology is being advanced chronologically. Basically, in this entire universe, life has happened on Earth so far of our knowledge. But this life has started to habituate for its surroundings. That's called evolving. But only human tried to understand his surroundings and try to manipulate it for his comforts. So he just felt cold, he discovered fire, and he felt really harmful. So he been into caves, started building houses. So he's developing himself. He tried to understand his surroundings, and he's creating new ideas and new concepts and building new things. So the basically before the evolution, the transportation was a problem. So he just thought, why don't we just build a wheel? So wheel has revolutionized entire transportation system. At that time, there was nothing. And just like that, the invention of wheel and the industrial revolution has changed entire human lifestyle. So all the inventions, discoveries, and all the things human has invented just for his comforts, right? To make the things easy, to do things with ease, or to satisfy himself, or to make the things world luxurious. He has built entire things. So the things we are experiencing now are just for leading a happy life. So, like, what is an innovation or what is an invention? To be honest, like, I think you guys know about difference between invention and discovery, right? So discovery is a thing to let the world know, or to let the world know about which is already there. For example, discovering a place. Vasco da Gama discovered America. You can just use it. So discovery is a thing which is already there. Human discovered fire. That's what. But invention is a different case. It refers to a new creation or creating a new thing or new idea. For example, creating a new good. In the previous times, we used to take water through pulleys and buckets. Later, we get the hand pumps. Well, hand pump was an invention using mechanical things and creating low pressure. And that concept, hand pump is an invention. But when you change it to hydraulic pump, the innovation in hand pump has resulted in mechanical hydraulic pumps, electrical pumps. So basically what I want to say is invention can be referred to a term. Invention can be referred to a thing which is really made new. It's a new product or a device. But whereas innovation is making changes to the already existing product. For example, in the 1856, when we go back to 1856, in the 19th century, there were electrical motors. So they used to have a DC electrical motors with brushes, with carbon brushes. They used to wear off easily, and like it takes a lot of cost and maintenance for maintaining those electrical motors. Then this in 1962, the T.G. Wilson and P.H. Strickey upgraded that concept. Like he introduced a brushless DC motor. They introduced a solid-state commutator instead, and there was no getting on. It increased the torque, efficiency, and like torque per power too. So it increased the entire thing. It revolutionized the industry of DC motors. Still now we are using the brushless DC motors in many other fields. So the innovation, like the brushless DC motor, is an innovation, and the mechanical carbon brush motors were invention. Hope you got it. So, like, what is an idea? Now, introduction. Like, what is an idea? Basically, when we speak, it's like a mode of thinking. When you look at a thing, or when you look at a problem, small thing, you will get a change in your mind, or you will get a chance to change it. You'll just think about it. You will get a thought. It's just a scratch. It doesn't have any documented proof, or you don't know how are you going to achieve it. For example, when you are churning, or like, when you are trying to take water out of a well through a pulley, you just didn't know. You felt it was hard. You wanted to change it, but you don't know how. Just like you wanted to change it, that's an idea. Like changing the thought you got is an idea, but it's not the proper concept or something. But you will get an idea without any previous experiences or documented proofs, or you don't know how are you going to achieve it, or without any blueprints. That's just a scratch. That's an idea. But when you dig deep into an idea, when you really investigate it, and when you think of how to achieve it, it derives to the concept. And these ideas can change the world. Like, for example, AC current, alternative current by Tesla. That has changed the entire world, right? So alternative current and these things. So the idea can be revolutionary. It can just change the fate of the world. For example, like there were steam engines, right? There were steam engines. James Watt, he used to have a bulky steam engine, and a lot of heat was dissipated in it, and it was not easy to maintain that thing. Later, Ronald Diesel, he tried to generate a new idea through it. He innovated it, to be honest. So he tried to build internal combustion engines that has revolutionized entire transportation system, unlike engines. So when he introduced internal combustion engines, the steam engines have gone, yeah, they are not there. Instead of their, just because of their bulky thing and use of lot of energy, heat energy, instead of that, they can use a gasoline engine. That's what an idea led to the invention of a diesel engine. So, like, what is the difference between an idea and concept? Precisely speaking, so when you go for a concept has a brief or documented proof. So it can be a generic idea. When you dive deep into an idea, it leads to a concept. For example, you needed to just take out the water from the well, but you didn't know how. That's just an idea. So you think, how could you take it? You just derive the previous experiences, just think the theories and the concepts and all the things, and you put it on a document. You inquire, you discover many things, you work on it, you fail, and that's just a concept. Like when you bring an idea to the life through a documented proof, it's called a concept. You can approach the companies or you can approach people through your concept, but idea is just a scratch thing. You can't just deliver entire information. When you say it's a concept, the concept has the basic groundwork, the things which have you done, and the research has done it. So concept, basically when you speak colloquially, concept and idea are the same. Colloquially, they both are the same. But when you just observe it precisely, idea and concept have a different meanings. That's what led to a proper documentation. So idea is really formless and it's not formal. When you approach or in the industries, you can't just use an idea. You need a proper concept. To be honest, you can even make it better by a project proposal. That's what they call it. When you make a proposal, in that you will have an entire thing. So it's like concentrating the problem and the ways to solve it, the best way to solve it, and the cost and the things you have, the resources, and the people you need, and the predictor estimate, like the estimated results, and all this comes under the project proposal. So that's what, before the project proposal, you will have a concept, and before the concept, you have an idea. It changes. And now comes to like a small introduction about the concepts. So as I said, concepts are much refined than ideas, and concept in business leads to a new entrepreneurial venture, and business idea is just a specific action. So when you say a business idea, you'll have when you just say an idea is more general while a concept is more specific. Concepts are more closely associated with theories and compared to ideas. That's what I said. Basically, when you use a concept, you will have a proper work done on it, and you extract the information, the previous experiences you had, and when you go through a proper research, that's called a concept. Idea will just it just strikes your mind at some instant by looking at a problem. But the concept, you take time, you dive deep into the idea, you just go to the roots of that idea, and solving that problem, you make a documented proof, and that's called a concept. So now just going to the next stage. So what is a problem? So just like the proper and the normal definition is, so the sequence of tasks must be completed to attain a certain outcome. According to the Project Management Institute, the term project refers to any temporary endeavor with a definite beginning and end. So that's what, when you read through it, you might just get it. So project is just as I said earlier, the project proposal, right? The project proposal, you have an estimated outcome and you have a defined time to start and define time to end, and you have stages in between them, and like specific guys doing that work at specific time. So you have a proper plan and proper plan for achieving the thing which you are decided. So like the project will have a established objective. You will have a like designated aim. Like you have a destiny for that. You decide it, and like it has a lifespan. You can't extend a project for years. It will have a kind of certain time, which is like which in that time you consider the factors like resources available and the people and the knowledge you have, the ground research, the information, all these comes under consideration when you take the time. So like, and the project needs like it's a participation. A person cannot achieve a project. Like depends upon the size or depends upon the goal. Depends upon the goal. The project size changes. For example, like building a dam, a person cannot build it, right? So like a person needs to plan it, and he needs to check for the he needs to check for the resources and the person who builds it and the person who makes it, and like later the quality test engineers and like the test for the soil test and a lot of things will be considered in that building a thing. But when you try to building a software project, for example, an application, if it's a big application, yeah, people they need more people. But if it's a small application, just a software engineer can make it up. So that's why, depending upon the requirement, the size of the project and the time and the people required for it changes. So like what leads to project or why it leads to a term project? So basically every project has a purpose. For example, if you are building a system, take a automatic cover system, for example, automatic cover system. So you need the purpose. What's the purpose of that system? The purpose of that system is to wash the car automatically without any human intervention. So we are not operating it manually. So that's the purpose. So you need to decide the purpose of the project, and then like you need to design how does it work. Operation design, like when the car comes, it needs to sense by the sensors, and the sensors activates the actuators, and those actuators move the arms, and that pumps the water and everything. So that's the operation design. If you need to make a design on a paper or like make it work it out. So when you write it down, you know the casualties or anomalies going through it. What are the things which you require? Then like you need to consider the values like ethics and the environment too. When you are doing a project, you just need to consider, because like as we are engineers, we need to consider the environment and the ethical values when you consider a project. You can't just do a random project like that hurts the values or feelings of the other peoples. You need to be conscious about the things which are going to happen, because technology shouldn't be used in a harmful way, or technology shouldn't be in a wrong hands that can be catastrophic. That's what I was trying to say. So when you just like have a scratch design or the things you require, then you just think about the funds and like where you need to establish that project and how many people you need. So what are the rules and regulations? Because like if it's an innovative project, you will have some sort of regulations, because the people in that team shouldn't share the privacy or like shouldn't share the things which you are doing, because somebody should have taken a lead and just finish it before you. You need to have set of regulations which you need to follow by the entire team and finish it off. Like when you just make a set of rules and regulations, it will be easy to follow. And when you work with a group of people, you need to have certain set of rules and regulations, because it's an easy way to communicate the things up, and they will understand what they are supposed to do and what they are not. So you need to have all that things. Yeah. Like, am I going too fast? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. It's okay, sir.
look at my screen?
Yes.
So yeah, the next thing is like characteristics of a project. So what does a project have? That's what I said earlier. A project has a clear start and end date. So when you start a project, for example, an organization approach you for a project, like they want to build a software, they want to build a physical thing. So they'll just like they'll ask for a project proposal or they'll ask for the estimation. So when you do that, in that project proposal, you need to have uh, when do you start it, when do you end it, what are the resources you're gonna use, and what are the stages of that project, and which stage is gonna carry it out after which stage, and each stage, how much time are you gonna take for each stage, how many funds are you gonna use for each stage, and what are the resources you need for each stage of the project, and like after achieving that project, how does that impact an organization, and how does that go to the market, and how does that impact the lives of the citizens. So like when you what are the like when you consider the characteristics, it has the project even has a boundaries. You can't just like sometimes you need highest resources. You can't just take an electron microscope at your place, right? So some kind of when you consider boundaries, like sometimes the boundaries might be the funds, sometimes the boundaries might be the labor. When I say labor, it's like a man, it's like technicians, or like sometimes it's just the place, sometimes it's way too advanced of your time. So these sometimes you can't just make it in the cheaper way, or all these are the boundaries. And like a project is a thing which you create new, like a new software or new mechanical thing, and that's it. But like when you consider project, it cannot be a business. When you introduce that project, the outcome of that project into the market, that can be a business. But this project is not a business. So like when I say every project is like it can be unique and like producing something that doesn't exist already or previously. So it's just like the project is a one-time activity. You don't need to, after finishing it, if there are really anomalies, you just get into it, but you can't continuously do a project. For example, I told you, it's a building a dam. After you build the dam, you check for the quality test and you check for the, like, the, when, for like natural calamities and all the stuff, and you finish it. You don't sit on the same dam entire your life, right? So that changes. Project has a specific timeline, and after finishing it, you just move on to other. Like that's what I said about the boundaries of the project. The constant you consider might be the time, quality, money, and functionality. So how it's gonna work? You can't just build a small thin layer of wall across a big river, right? So that's what changes the functionality. You can't use a thing which is supposed to use here. For example, you have a 1 watt power mechanical motor, hydraulic pump you design, but like you are trying to take out the water from an ocean. It's you can't just take out the water from an ocean with just a normal hydraulic pump, right? It's a different way, or it's just like how to evacuate a pond. That's normal 1 watt, like the normal 1 watt is not enough. 1 watt is nothing. It's just a normal toy which is used in normal basic project. That's the functionality. So you need to use the project outcome that's in a destined area or in destined place. You can't use the same thing everywhere. For example, yeah, we have a proverb, right? Like a needle can be used to save, but not in a war. That's what the functionality means. So like that's what I said. Like projects are not confused with the process, because when you do the project, you just make it and hand over it to the concerned person. You just don't take it into the market and make it a business. Like they do, but it's an organization. You, as a project manager or a project planner or a participant, don't take it. They have a concerned team to make it through. So, like, just coming to that's what, like, basically, when you have a project, the experts or the scientists in project management, they use a terminology called iron triangle of project management. So like imagine what's this iron triangle? Imagine a triangle. Yeah, you know that, right? Triangle has three vertices. So consider one vertex as a quality of the project, one vertex will be the cost for the project, one vertex will be the time. So why it's called iron triangle of project management. For example, you have quality, time, and cost. You need the project so quick with high quality. That means you need more people, more technicians, and more technology you need. And that leads to an investment of lot of cost. So you need a good quality with less time. So you need to increase the cost of the project. So that's like you can't compromise one vertex. You can't compromise vertices of that triangle. That's what it's called iron triangle. For example, you have a like unlimited span of time, and like they really pay less, so you can achieve a good quality even though they pay less. Even though they pay less, you have a lot of time, right? So you can wait for the proper technician available for you to do a job correctly. Then you will wait for a while. It takes time. So you will get it will be low cost if you need quality but less time. But if you need the cost efficient with high quality, then it's really tough. Like when you reduce the cost, you can't hire people with high knowledge for your quality, and it takes a lot of time. You need to wait for the people to come over there. So you at least one vertex of this triangle is supposed to compromise. That's why that's called iron triangle of project management. Hope you got it. So like in the project management cycle, basically like people have come up with different steps, like various steps. But like I have, when I have been through many researches and many books, I came up with the like 12 ideal steps. Well, let's discuss it later. But like now we are just like in this cycle, let's go through five steps. Like it has initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and the closure. Like by the subtitle itself, you can understand. Like in this initiation, like the starting of the project, and like for example, you will have you. I think you have an idea about the contracts or something. So they have a job to do, and they will invite the people to come out there. So all the people will come with the proposals or the tenders they call basically. But we in this industry or business we call call it's a project proposal. In that project proposal, you will have you will have to convince the stakeholders. You will have to convince the customer with your proposal. Like how do you approach it? So you just the starting, you need to create a project proposal like by stating how are you going to start it, what are the resources you need, what are the people you need, how are you going to do it. So that thing comes in the second thing, like planning. How are you going to achieve it, what are the resources you need, whom are you allocating the task to achieve a particular goal. And like next, the execution, there should be a person who doing it. So like you need to monitor how far it has been gone, and like what are the outcomes of it. Does it complete in a given time? So that's what monitoring and controlling. So end of the day, like when you finish the project, you need to go through it again and again, and just closure. That's what the basic project management cycle. But like when you specifically deep dive, I told you, right, there will be 12 steps for a proper perfect project plan. So like first, at first you need to define the project. When I say define, so clearly you need to know what are you gonna do, or what a customer requires, or what a stakeholder requires. And like I told you, you need to consider the hidden triangle. So you need to ask, you need to know what's their priority in this stage. Like their priority might be the quality. So they don't want to compromise at any time. So they want high quality in less time. So the cost will be increased. You need to let them know that when you need quality in the less time, it takes more cost. If they are ready to pay, you can just proceed. So that's like you need to define the project properly before you start. Without a proper start, you will be in a troublesome situation. So next, like after you define the project, so like for example, they want a good quality with less time, they are happy to pay you more. Like they are happy to invest in the project. So you can just proceed to the next stage. So list out the task what you are gonna do. Like list out the things like raw materials and the people you need and the technicians you need, and like the place where you want to achieve this task, all these things. Then after listing out the task, you need to run the planning audit. Like you have a specific task, right? Like for example, you are building an office at a new place. For example, let's take it a project. So building an office at a new place needs look out at the place, and that place should be commutable to every person, most of the persons. So easy for transportation. So you need to look out the place. Then you need to look out the construction engineer or the like civil engineer. And for that engineer, you need to arrange the raw materials like wood, bricks, cement, and everything. And you need to arrange the labor. And after that, you need to have an interior designer for your interior design. And after that, you need to arrange the entire infrastructure. After that, end of the day, you are going to open that place or office. So these are the tasks. You listed the tasks over there. So how to plan? The first thing you need to look out the land. But like after looking at the land, you can just look for the construction engineer, infrastructure, like bring down the infrastructure or interior design. You can do these three things parallelly. That's what, like you can do some things or some tasks. You can run tasks parallelly, and like you can put a job notification for that office when you start for the construction itself. You don't need to wait till the office start running, because you will be running it empty if you don't start the hiring in middle of task. That's what, like planning the task or running the order of the task also plays a key role in project management. You can run few things parallel. So, and like you need to add safety margins for that, because if you are sure that, for example, looking out land may take 15 days, you can just add it 16 days. Like you need to be 90% sure of that. And like when you show that to a customer, when you show that you are capable of handing over the project in 90 days, then you at least take 1 day more, because there might be an anomaly, there might be a casualty, there might be a, like some the raw materials might have been exhausted, raw materials might have been wasted, or you need to replan the project plan. So even though if you're 90% sure, just think about before giving a due date to a customer. And like crashing, you need to consider the crashing of the project too, because like like if the project for example, if you are doing the research, you cannot just estimate the outcomes. So never promise a due date when you are considering the research. Just think about, like you can give an estimation but never give a proper due date for research. You need to consider crashing when you are submitting a project, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like suddenly the market may shut down, just like the COVID-19 has happened. You may not get like the labor to work for your project, or some people may not be happy to work from home. So that's kind of crashing. You need to consider crashing too. You need to be conscious. You need to know what are the casualties going to happen. And next, the sixth stage will be a Gantt chart. When I say Gantt chart, I think most of you know about it. The Gantt chart is listing of the things you are gonna do and planning of that in a proper order. You will have the time for each task and title for the each task and the person assigned to the each task. When you put it on a paper, it's really a proper way of representing your project to a investor or a customer or whoever. The third person, the person who looks at the Gantt chart can understand entire project and what's going through it. So you need to have a Gantt chart to monitor your work with your colleagues or with your team, and you need to have a Gantt chart to represent your work. The proper Gantt chart leads to a successful project. So, like in that Gantt chart, you just take initiation. You write, for example, I told you about the constructing an office at the third place. So in that, you will just write in the first place, you need to look for the place. It may take 10 days. And then after that, you need to look for a construction engineer. It may take 5 days. And look for the labor, look for the infrastructure, look for the furniture, look for the interior designer. So you arrange all these things on a Gantt chart, and you assign specific time to each task and assign a specific person to each task. And it will be easy to monitor when you construct a Gantt chart for a project management. So many people suggest, not even suggest, it's a proper thing. It should be there. Like when you plan a project, you need to have a Gantt chart. That really succeeds your project. Otherwise, you're just confused and you don't have a proper monitoring and you don't consider people doing it. So that's gonna be troublesome. And basically after you construct a Gantt chart, you will know what are the resources you need and whom you have assigned, and you will have a direct contact with your task manager, the person who is performing the task. You need to calculate the resources and requirements before you submit a project proposal. You need to calculate what do you need, and based on the resources and better the resources you have, you need to plan a proper deadline of your project. And you need to assess the risk factors and prepare action plans. So, sometimes you may not have the resources and you need to rush for the alternate thing. So you need to have an action plan when you have a sudden risk. For example, your teammates might have sick. You need to have a proper action plan, proper contact to assign another person on time to that specific task. You need to have a proper action plan. You need to assess the risk. That's what people say. You need to expect the worst and do your best. That's all. So when you construct a Gantt chart, as I told you, it's easy to monitor the task. That's why you need to monitor progress using your Gantt chart. And you need to monitor the cost too. For example, if a task is taking lot of money or using lot of funds than it's supposed to be. So when you assign a task for a specific person or specific, when you assign specific funds or proper funds to a task, if that is really exceeding, it shouldn't exceed because it will decrease the entire thing. For example, if you take out that funds from other tasks, and that will be a deficit. You can't ask the investor again for when you submit a project plan. They will not be quite happy when you just misuse the funds. So monitor the cost too when you do that. And when you construct a proper project plan and a Gantt chart, discuss with your team and ask them, take the ideas from them, take their tips, and readjust the plan. Because when you think doing for the time taken for certain task might be 5 days, if that guy says no, it takes a week, so you need to rearrange the plan, you need to readjust the plan, then you need to change the entire Gantt chart, and you need to change the due date, or you can adjust that 2 days from other tasks, or you can run that parallel while the other task is being performed. So not all the tasks are in a chain, right? So some tasks will be you can run them parallelly to achieve a project. So you need to readjust the plan by discussing with your teammates, and you need to review before you submit. You need to review the entire plan before you submit to the organizer, because something, how many times even though you review it 10 times, it's fine. It's okay to recheck. It's okay to go through it again and again. It doesn't go wrong. So that's it. To achieve a success in a project, you need to you need to consider many factors. Like the main three factors is the outcome of your project should be succeeded. And the project management, if you think you have done correctly, the project manager has achieved all the tasks in time with the given funds with higher quality outcome. And that thing, and the organizational impact when you deliver a product into the market, or when you give the assigned project to the investor or customer, what's the impact of that project that creates on your organization. So these three factors are the main thing to say that a project is succeeded. So for example, if you just deliver a project which is not really good quality, and like the investor or the customer thinks they don't want to deliver, or they don't want to achieve, or they don't want to assign any other projects to to these people again. So that's really, even though you finish the project successfully, it's not a big deal. They are not going to come back to you, or they're not going to look back to you. So that's not a success. So projects, if you want to say a project is successful, you need to consider the outcome of the project, the impact that has created on your organization, and the project management, how has it been through. So these three factors are the main things. So after so far, are you guys clear? Am I going too fast?
Sir, yes, sir, we are clear, sir.
So it's just it's fine. There are types of projects. When you say it's like a traditional project, and agile project, remote project, and agency project. When you say traditional project, these are run in a sequential way, they have initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure, the first 5 stages which I have explained to you. So that's what, it's just like constructing a dam. You can't open the gates of a dam without constructing it, right? So it has a sequential thing. It's a traditional thing. That's what everybody use or being used, many of them. So it costs really more, and for a traditional project management, because you need to perform a task after one another. You can't run it parallelly. That takes time, that takes money. That's why it costs really more. When you say agile projects, they're like the name itself says, it's like agile. When you say agile, it's really weak or smooth, or like what we call brittle. So these are basically agile. So most of the software products or projects come under this agile thing. These are really adaptive. Like you can upgrade the software, you can just receive the tips from the old things. This software project will be adaptive, and they are really less termed. You don't need to have you can just hire a front end and a back end developer. A front end guy does his own work, and the back end guy does his own work. You don't need to have an entire full stack developer and make him work all day and night. You can hire like 2 to 3 front end and 2 to 3 back end developers and let them work together. So that's what you can happen in agile. So when you say remote projects, these projects are monitored remotely. That's what is happening right now. We guys are working at home, and these things are really managed by the managers somewhere in their home. It's, or else most before this COVID, most of you people know that hiring freelancers, it will be cheaper, and you don't need to look back at them, and you don't need to invest a lot of time or worry about them. So it's just hiring the freelancers for your project or monitoring them from a distance place. That's called remote project management or remote projects. So when you say agency project, it's like outsourcing or going for a third party for your own project. So it's just when you go for example, even though you are a good project manager, even though you have built up a good project, without a proper marketing strategy, or without a proper without a without a proper launching, that project or product will be really worse. You can't expect it. So for this marketing and like launching things, people hire outsource or people hire the third party organizations. They are really good at marketing. They just market. They don't perform the tasks. They don't work. They don't do research. They don't know. They don't have any idea about the project. When you just give them a product review or project review and give them what's gonna do, so these third party guys take the responsibility of marketing it and increase the sales or good initiation, good launching of the product. So these are the types of projects. That's what I say. Like, so when you go through it again, the traditional, as I said, it takes time. It's a kind of chain reaction. It's kind of chain task, and like you can't perform one before the other, and it takes time. When you go for agile, mostly used in software, and like when you go for remote, it's monitored remotely with the freelancers and agency going for a third party. So these are the types of projects. And like, what is a product then? So now coming to the product, then like first just let's go what is written over there. A product is the item offered for sale. Like, when you say a product, it's a physical thing. It can be like you just sell it. The outcome of your project will be the product. So that product is a physical thing. You can sell it, and like sometimes it can be a software too. For example, you designed a software from a project. The entire thing you have been doing is project development. But the outcome of that is a product, and that software product is being sold in the market. So the product might be a physical thing or a virtual thing which is being sold. And like each product has its own cost and its own singularity, or we can say like, specific thing. It performs a specific task or can be used for multiple tasks. So that is sold at a certain price in the market. It can be a business thing, whereas the project cannot be a business, but the product is a business always. And like the price or the charges imposed on the product based upon the market and the demand, the quality of the product or the marketing, and like how much you have invested in it or what are the things it can do. So that's what, like, the place decides the price of the product too sometimes. For example, if you try to sell an old rock in the market, it doesn't get sold properly. But if you try to sell the same rock to an archaeologist, he's ready to pay like grand, like, $1 grand or $2 grand for that. So that's what the place also decides the cost of the product. Based on the requirement of the customer, you design the product and deliver it, and that's what happens. So whatever the stages of the product life cycle, and like what is a product life cycle? Each product has a life cycle that needs to go through, and like sometimes like there may be something which there might be a kind of hand pump, and these hydraulic electric pumps have replaced that thing. So the entire product life cycle has to be changed. Like the product life cycle of a hand pump is quite different from a electric hydraulic pump, right? So it's quite different. So product life cycle from each product to product might change, and like it has different 5 stages. So each launch. So let's go through each thing: launch of the product, development of product, and like growth, maturity, and decline. When you say product development, like when you say it's a kind of launch of a product, the product is launched in the market. But before you launch that product in the market, you need to develop the product. So for developing a product, you need the resources, technicians, and the funding. The customer comes to you with an idea or with a concept. So for that idea, for that concept, or like to solve his own problem, you have a solution for that, and that's your product. So to achieve that goal, to bring the product to life, you need some resources and funding, right? You make a list out of it. Same like the project management. You make the list out of it, you just do a cost estimation and give it to him and the due date. So you need to develop the product with those requirements. After you develop the product, that is launched in the market for the customer requirement. He just launches that in the market with proper marketing strategy and he needs to have proper marketing strategy for that. Without a proper marketing strategy, you can't launch a product and that will end up in loss. And then if, for example, if the product is being declined from the market, you need to take the product back and you need to extend the strategies, or you need to change how it works, or you need to change the design. Sometimes you need to change the task performed by it, you need to make it multitasking. Or else if it's really being declined worse, it's like breaking point, it's better to shut the product down. You just shut the product down, withdraw the product from the market and plan for with a new idea. You can't just prolong, or you can't just continue that failed product in the market. You need to understand when it's being declined or when it's being shut or shunned by the customers or shunned by the market. So maturity in this stage of product life cycle, in this stage, the product sales will be stabilized. You don't need to invest much in the marketing. You don't need to bring the brand ambassadors or someone else to entirely market your entirely what we call sales, entirely marketing your product. You just at this maturity, people will understand there is a product for their use and that's good. So at this, the sales will be stable. I can't say high, the sales will be really stable. And the marketing, you don't need to invest much in the marketing. And when it comes to the decline, or when it comes to the growth, sales must be when the final stage will be growth, the sales will be peaks. You don't even need to have a marketing. People will buy blindly. They don't need to have a proper marketing. For example, just consider a basic thing which we have been seeing as we are from Indian demography. The Parle-G biscuits, right? So at the beginning of that product, when they were launching, they have a beautiful baby's picture on it, and they launched it properly. They just exclaimed that it gives a literally good energy, provides good genius thing and everything. With the launching, they have invested a lot. Launching of the product takes a lot of thing. And after that, the market didn't decline. Basically, I don't think so. It has been declined because I'm not born at that time. But if it was declined, they might have brought changes to that product. For example, they might increase the pack size 20% extra or 30% extra for the price you pay, or the weight of the biscuits might be increased, or the picture or the wrap might have been changed to attract the more customers if it was declined. But at some point it has some maturity. I remember the commercial saying that genius when I was a kid. So at that time, that might be the maturity point of that biscuits company, because they didn't bring any brand ambassador or they didn't want much, but that was a point of maturity. People understood that there was a product which satisfies their use or which satisfies their needs. They brought it. So it's just a kind of maturity. But now you don't look at any ad, right? So that's a growth entirely. The sales are really up to the peaks. They don't want any advertisement, or it might be completely declined. But I can see still the products out there. So that's in the growth stage now. They don't need to invest anything on the marketing. They knew that it's a common man's diet, I guess I can say, because if you have really less money, you can just buy it. Even a common man can afford that. That's what they came with. And to increase their sales or to increase their, you don't need, for example, at some time, to increase your sales, you don't need to market more, or you don't need to attract more customers. Within the customers, you can change the size of the product without knowing them. For example, at that time, you used to pack 10 pieces in that 10 pieces in that pack. When you reduce the thickness of that 10 pieces, you can produce more packets, or you can reduce 1 or 2 pieces in that. In that too, that increases the sales too. How does it increase? Because if a guy uses 10 pieces for 2 days, and like how many days he's gonna use that 8 pieces thing. For example, you can take the best thing came up with the William Colgate, I guess. Yeah, that guy, does he has reached the like maturity point, and like he tried to increase the sales of his product, like the paste. He invited like celebrities for that, and everything couldn't work. But later, an engineer has given him an idea to increase the diameter of that tube, like not the tube, the opening, like to increase the diameter of that opening of that paste. So when you increase the diameter, when you press the paste, more paste is flown out of it, of the mouth. And like if a paste like really comes like 30 days for a family, it is been reduced to 25 days roughly. But in a year, he used to, in a year he used to buy 12, that family used to buy 12 pairs, but like after this change they need to buy 13 pairs. Like it take like it seems like really less improvement, but in a bulky way, like in thousands of families buying 13, so you have increased the sales, right? So sometimes when you need to increase the sales, you need to have a strategy that's just not marketing. Use your brain, like changing the quantity, or don't change the quality, never compromise with the quality. But if you compromise with the quality, people will stop trusting. But anyway, like if you, even though if you want to compromise with the quality, you can do that at the stage of growth, not at the stage of maturity. You're going to lose it. So just like it has different stages, like as I said earlier, the same product development stage life cycle you can look at here. So with the proper explanation in the pictures, it shows like product development needs high cost, but you don't need to sell. But at that time, marketing can work on their marketing by saying that they are developing a new thing. That's what changed, because the entire market has been changed, and the technology has been changed, and the people mindset has been changed. That's why before launching the project itself, people are like, before developing the product itself, people are trying to launch by showing the shaded, or like by showing the blueprints, or saying that attracting the people by creating a curiosity. Sometimes Apple does the same thing, right? Apple, it's a big brand, they launch a new product every year. Like there are literally less features updated in it, but it's just a brand, and they're being increased, and people are being buy, and the customers are being increased, not that. So like when you go for the launching of the product, it really costs high. The expenditure will be high, because launching should be like completely breaking out, like, because if you are introducing a project, you need a proper marketing and publicity. Without publicity, you can't sell the product easily in the market. So that's why like launching costs more. You may bring a celebrity for there, or you may just like conduct talks, or like a concert or something like that, and you just gather the people over there, introduce your product. Basically, many entrepreneurs does that. Like Tesla has arranged a meet when he was launching his car, right? Tesla car, Tesla truck, to be honest. So that's what happens. So you invest a lot on the launching. But like for example, if it's being declined, when you say decline, the sales might be declining slowly. So at that time, you need to upgrade your product, or make some changes to the product and re-release it. Or if you observe it's really declining rapidly, I suggest, or like the researchers suggest that stop the product. Instead of going into losses, stop it, make some changes, do proper research this time, rebuild the product, check it hundreds of times, and catch the pulse of the market by by conducting qualitative and quantitative researches. Basically, quantitative research is best for building a product and releasing it to the market. Quantitative research is a thing where you just go to the group of people, analyze their, like give some questionnaire, they just choose their answers, and by analyzing that, you will know the pulse of the market, you will know pulse of a customer. Then you can, as per the requirements of the customer, you can design the product and just release in the market. That's what it happens in the decline. So when it comes to maturity, as I said earlier, in that maturity, the sales of the product will be nominal. And like it's up to the mark. You don't, those are not compromised. You don't need to invest much on marketing. You can just go through it. You can really just, it's kind of you need to invest less on the marketing when but when you are in between the launch and decline, you need to market a lot, like hire the shop, like give putting on the flyers and posters and billboards on the roads. You need to do a lot of things, but at this maturity level, you don't need to invest much on this marketing. If the people know that your product is good, they will come to you. And growth is end, like every company or every product developer thinks about it. His product should be succeeded. At this point of growth, the sales will be increased like anything, they are kind of break even. The sales will be increased high and the demand will be high. Even though if you increase your product price at that point, people will buy it because the custom market liked your product, the customers like your product. That's what how you play. So in the next stage, how now we are going through the product development cycle, to be honest. So when you say it's a product development cycle, it has various stages. For example, to develop a product, we need to recognize the need of developing a product. What's the need of developing product? For example, yeah, when you are what can I say now? The same example I've been carrying out. So when you are just taking out the water from a well through a pulley and a bucket, you are just getting tired and it's really hideous work. That's what you wanted. There was a need of easiest way taking out the water from the well. So one of the easiest way, you discovered a mechanical hand pump, and then later it has been changed to electrical hydraulic pumps. So the need was, so first you need, if you need to develop a product, you need to recognize the need. Like when you look around yourself, you have lots of things. You first go through the problems that have been faced by society. For example, a guy, a small engineering bachelorate, that guy has invented. I'm at least so far. Hello.
Yes, sir. You are clear. You are clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Just people saying it's really noisy. Just let me figure it out. Yeah. Can you guys hear me now properly? It is still noisy.
No, sir. It's fine.
Yeah, let me just adjust my mic. Excuse me for that. Hope you guys can hear properly now. Yeah, hope it's clear now. Thanks. Just excuse me for a while. So where was I? Yeah, the product development. Basically, yeah, you need to recognize the problem in the society or in the problem for doing a task or for achieving a task. So early man, that guy, like early man has discovered wheel. He invented the wheel. So he recognized the problem in transporting. He tried to slide the heavy blocks. So he thought it was tough. So he put some logs under it. He tried to pull it. So it was easy. And he just developed a wheel based on that concept. So his need was transporting heavy blocks, and that need created an idea in his mind, and that idea changed it to a concept. And after that concept, he has designed the wheel. And after designing that wheel, he just he maybe he to be honest, he doesn't have a pen and paper at that time, right? So he directly built a prototype, and he used it. So that's how a product development cycle works. Like I was taking an example, there was a undergrad. He didn't even get his diploma certificate. So he recognized a problem in his society because he was economically backward. He used to get a public government supplied water, but that water is being snatched by the other people who has hydraulic pumps. So these guys used to get the less water. So he thought he needs to do something for that. So he recognized the problem. His problem was insufficient supply of water. Like only the people who can get it, they are getting it. The people who are in need of it, they are in getting it. So he just recognized the problem. His need was the equal supply of water. So he discovered a gadget which fits to the mouth of the tap. He fixed the tap to the main. He tried that. That gadget allows a certain amount of water to a per house. It's automatically. You can't hack it. After that certain amount, automatically the tap closes. Actuator in it activates, and that tap closes. So you can't misuse the water, and the other people who are in need of it. When you reduce the use or when you reduce the wastage, the people who are really in need of it will get that water. That's what he discovered. Like he invented that actuator. So he discovered his need. He wanted the water, equal water supply. And he got an idea. How could he do it? So how could he achieve it? He thought like reducing the wastage may get that. So that's an idea. How could he reduce the wastage? That turned into a concept. How could he reduce the wastage? He can just stop using it by putting a tap, by putting a block over the mouth of the tap. How could he put a block? How could he just block that tap runway? He just put a gadget over there. He designed it. He designed a prototype then. After that, he tested it. After giving a prototype, he tested it. There might be a little bit of modifications, like somebody may hack it or somebody may break it. So without doing that, he just built it, airtight gadget, and that should be applied to every house in the locality. After building that, after developing that, he didn't produce in a bulky way. He went for the approval. He just showed he's trying to apply for the patent. He'll After applying for the patent, he will just go to the production and then go to the market and sales. So, for example, that's what I said. When you go for the marketing or sales, if you see a decline in the market, you need to readjust it. For example, you can see here, right? Yeah, in the when you launch the product, here in the market, it may decline or it may succeed. If it declines, you need to remodify. You need to modify the product. You need to develop it again. Sorry, excuse me. You need to develop it again. Okay, if you develop it again, you need to make a prototype and go for the production and go for the approval. If it doesn't fail, if it really succeeds in the market, so you sell it, and like you need to have a spare parts store, because like sometimes it may break, or not everybody is capable or not everybody can afford to buy entire product. You will have some kind of screw. For example, if there was a screw has gone in a Thai car, would you buy a screw or would you buy a Thai car? It's just a screw, right? This kind of spare parts, you need to manage the spare parts in a spare parts store. And after that, decommissioning of the product. So you need to after the parts, you can just improve the product, or you can just stop the product if it's really declining in the market. That's what happens here. Like that's what we say. Like you have a need. From that, basically we have a proverb: necessity is mother of invention. That's what drives entire inventions in the world. That's a necessity. The only necessity for transportation has influenced a human for bringing wheel to the life. The necessity of surviving the cold led the human to discover the fire. The necessity of achieving the efficiency in transportation influenced Rudolf Diesel to invent internal combustion engines. That's what necessity is mother of invention. So when you know what you need, you will get an idea at an instance. That idea, when you dug deep into that idea, the proper concepts and previous experiences and proper research, it takes incarnation of concept. And from that concept, you design the things. Basically, designing is like in previous times you will have 2D designing by drafts and the paper and pencil. Now we have latest softwares like for the 2D you have AutoCAD, for the 3D Inventor, SolidWorks, Fusion 360. So like you can use any of those for designing. Luckily we have simulation softwares too. You can check your product, you can check the strength or efficiency of your product before you even build a prototype. You can run simulations through ANSYS and CATIA. That's what. So we have the technology has improved so far that you don't even need to waste a raw material to build a product. But it's better to build a prototype even though you have run the simulations in the software, because softwares may not consider all the anomalies that's going to happen in the real nature. The concepts of physics may differ when you go at some points of time. The gravitational, you can see gravitational anomalies even on the earth in the Bermuda Triangle. That's a gravitational anomaly. You can't just expect the higher gravitation over there. That's what. So even though you run simulations in softwares, sometimes you need to develop a prototype and test it. You need to run. That's why the companies these days, they are designing the things in 3D software, like using Inventor. Yeah, most of the people use Inventor because it's easy to use. So they develop a design 3D model. They develop a 3D model in that Inventor software, and they run simulations. Even though after running the simulations, they just put the calculations aside and they develop a prototype through 3D printing. That's called prototyping or 3D printing, additive manufacturing, if you call that. So they do that prototype and they test it. They run the test on it. If it really matches the requirements, then that is sent to batch production to the industries. If it doesn't, you need to remodify the design and then develop the prototype again, and you need to send for the production. After that production, that is released into the market with proper launching and marketing strategies and everything. Then the spare parts and that documentation too. You need to have a documentation of your product development because there is a chance of snatching your knowledge. That's what happens. So that's what I said. Like in this, you will for the product development life cycle, you have really many stages here. I just said like it's a normal flow chart here, but it's when you dive deep into it, you will observe like different stages. Like you need to when you know the need and you have the idea, you need to do a proper research for that, and then you need to use engineering. When I say like when you have a research and you need to design a project, you need to think in a way of engineer, because when I say engineer, it's not the designation. It's like thinking in an alternative way. For example, if you design a bar, you need to think whether it sustains the cantilever stress or all the stresses, or like you need to change the material for that stress. You can't just put an iron bar for manufacturing an aeroplane. You need to use aluminum and asbestos in that because it needs to be light and stronger. You can't use iron there; it will be heavy and it's not economical. That's what happens. So you need to use engineering there, and then after that, you need to develop a prototype. And if there are errors in that, you need to modify that and develop it, and then you need to test it. Either you need to test it by simulation software, and you need to test it by using simulation softwares and by physically, because just a second. Yeah, you need to develop it, you need to test it through simulation softwares and physically, because you can't expect the anomalies. Sometimes like uh, for optical research you cannot use simulation softwares. Recently for optics, simulation software has been developed by ANSYS, but even though they have developed, people are really trying with the physical experiments. You can't estimate the intensity of light, how it changes when you translate to different medium. Even though you have thousands of data, sometimes it changes. That's called anomaly, which you can't expect, which does not follow the basic concepts of physics which have been done by Newton or Einstein or something like that. That's what you need to test it physically. And like, you need to have a quality analysis. After that, you need to do a proper documentation of that product to release it. And that, if you need to launch that product in the market, and if it gets any like a patch of work or if it gets repaid, you can't, customers can't bring everything to the industry, right? So you need to set up some kind of workshops around the different cities or major cities. So you need to train the people in those workshops. So you need to train the people over your product. And after that, you need to have a sales support. And like after the sales support, you need to deploy the project through logistics. And after that, you need to have a technical support because sometimes if it's a software thing, the people have to call through and they can solve their own problem. DIY. Many people are interested in DIY, so they need to do their own thing, right? They like to do their own thing. That's why they just have a tech support. They'll call the company and ask if they could fix it by themselves. They'll do it. They don't want to go to a workshop for doing it. Then you need to have a maintenance. For example, if a product is being launched in the market, that should be maintained. Like that's called condition monitoring. That term used for maintaining a product is called condition monitoring. It's an entire branch of science where it increases the lifespan of a product. For example, you buy a car or you buy a bike, you just use it every day, but you need to have a monitor or check regularly. You need to have a regular check. Right? Even the human body needs a regular checkup for increasing the lifespan or for being really good, efficient at work. That's called maintenance. So you need to think of that maintenance, and like workshops do the same job. Like and performance of engineering, that comes at the first and the beginning too, at first and in between too. So like after the maintenance or you need to take the reviews from the customers. You need to have a proper review from the customers so that you can understand. You can sometimes the customers give the new ideas which you don't even know because they know their requirement than us. They can give an innovative idea for that. They can give a modification suggestions. So be ready to accept those. So this is the entire product development life cycle. So when I say condition monitoring, so in that branch of science, you just think of when to have a regular checkups and how to maintain it, and like it thinks about cost efficiency too. You can't just take your regular checkups for 12 months, like 12 times a year. It's really not cost effective, right? So that decides when to take for a regular checkup or when to maintain it properly, when to clean it properly. That deals with that science is called condition monitoring. That's a different topic. We can just discuss anytime you want. So how do you know that your product is successful, or how do you make your product successful? So you need to know about the product properly and the need of that product in the market, and then you need to have a proper market orientation. You need to know. You can't just, like, for example, you can't open an Apple store in an urban area, right? What's the use of it? You need to know the market orientation of that. It's not the market. You can open an Apple store in a metropolitan city, not in an urban area. So that's what happens for the market orientation. And like you need to know new product, either new product should be developed or modify the existing product, because like if there is no use of new product and you develop it, it's really wasting of your funds and time for the new product. And like how much time does it take, how much speed does it take, and what are the strategies you follow, and like what are the teams you use. For example, if you are developing, you can't just develop a thing by a single team of engineers. You need for example, you are building a robot, just take it. So if you are building a robot, you need to consider different teams. You can't just go with the mechanical engineer or go with the electronics engineer or go with the software engineer or the computer vision technician. You need to consider even a material scientist too, or else like you can't just hire a material scientist. You will ask your mechanical engineer to have the knowledge of material science, because you can't use heavy metals or heavy things on a robot. You need to have a high torque actuators for that. You can't just use the entire power on just torque That's why you need to know the material science, you need to know the embedded systems, you need to know the motion, you need to know the degrees of freedom, and you need to calculate the kinematics of that board, and you need to stabilize it, and you need to know the signal processing engineer. So you need a lot of things. That's what a product, if you need to bring a product to life, the various things of engineers should work on it, or else an engineer who has multiple knowledge can use it, but it's really tough, right? So you can use a couple of engineers with multiple multitasking, they can do it. You can't just run a one man show over there. It's not a stand-up comedy. It's a product development, right? So it takes time. And like the technology you use for developing a product, like basically you guys might have known the batch production or like single production, right? So leave about the when you say the technology, for example, even though you need to develop a prototype, you don't need to invest much on it. Now the technology has improved, you can do a 3D modeling and get a 3D print or like additive manufacture that and test on it. After that, you can develop batch production. You can go for a batch production. So you don't need to just carry the big long charts of design for your production. You can just send the PDF files of your 3D designs to. So the technology has a big impact on the production or product development. So like you need to have a management support of your product development cycle, because you need to know which thing should be start. For example, you know the idea, you know the need, you have an idea, you have the concept, and then you need to design it. So when to do a research and you need to have a research and development team. After that, you need to have a designing team. After that, you need to have prototyping. Then in between you need to plan a marketing over it. Before when you get the proper results in R&D, you can just start your marketing before you launch the product. That's how it works. Like the you can get really good scope in the market before you just release the product, because you have done a proper research, you know the outcome of the product, right? So you need to, that's what a management support of new product development. If you need to success your product in the market, you need to consider all these things. How are you gonna do it? Why are you doing it? How are you gonna approach the customers? How are you gonna make it cost efficient? How are you gonna increase your sales? How are you gonna take it into the public? That's these all things comes under. End of the day, we need our we need to return on our investment. Not only money. These days, people are trying for the recognition. They need recognition and appreciation too. So, like your organization needs proper recognition and a good name for the product you have released. So that's what happens. And like so when you just go for the product plan, so when you have a proper product plan, you can just predict the outcomes of the product launch. For example, you can just estimate the market ups and downs, and markets ups and downs, and how it's gonna perform in the market, whether it's gonna be succeeded or not. You need to define the overall strategy. How are you gonna deploy your products in the market? Like and you need to know, you need to define which which colonial group of market are you targeting. For example, in the country India, we have four economic groups, like below poverty line, middle class, upper middle class, and the rich people. So like when you release a product, basically we have more above middle class and middle class, like these economic groups. So when you have these economic groups, you need to target. What's your target? Are you gonna like for example, when you go for the luxurious cars, they just target only the rich people. They don't target the common man. But like when you go for the Tata, they consider like middle class and above middle class. So you need to know which ethnic group. I can't say ethnic group. Which economic group? Which economic group are you concentrating? You need to know what's your market strategy and which group are you targeting, and based on that you need to invest on your product development and deployment. Otherwise, like you just end up with a high cost product and nobody buys, only rich people buy it. So you will end up with nothing. So like you need to know who are your competitors in that field. Like if it's really innovative, even though you are innovative, your competitor will be your competitor, it's like your competitor will have a new innovative thing than that. When you release this product, if he releases more, if you release more efficient product than this, you will end up with low sales and like end up with loss in the business. So you need to understand, you need to consider the project plan, you need to develop a product plan before you release it. In that you need to consider the marketing strategy, the resources used, the competitors you have, and which economic group of people you are targeting, and how to market and how to sell to them. Like and you need to have the priorities, like it's not just a single product you deliver, right? You need to have a, you will have a multiple projects and products going on, so you need to know which is your prioritize the work. Prioritization of work helps always. You need to know which is more important to you than which brings more profit. So you need to know which is more important and when to do what. So this prioritization helps you have a proper control over your business, or proper control your product development and deployment. So you need to prioritize the things, and like you need to have a proper schedule. As I said in the Gantt chart, you can just have the same thing on the product. When you compare, like when you compare project and product, so product is the outcome of a project. So basically, product will be a subset of a project, but never, and the project is a superset of a product. So I will explain it in the next slide properly. So like you need to know where you need, when you need to develop or modify the product, because when you release a product, it may not meet the requirements of the people after a couple of years. It may change. So the customers may shift to your competitor. You need to develop it. For example, when you go for like water purifying systems, at first they came up with OS, right? Osmosis with ROS, reverse osmosis process. Then they changed, they added like UV in that. They saying that UV sterilization. Then they said that we use a porous semi-permeable membrane for like 7 stages of filter. Then other people came with using copper vessel in that, and some other people came with like 7 stages of filtration with copper vessels. So these are all the competitors. At first they started with just a reverse osmosis process, but as per the requirement of the customers, they have been modifying the product. At first, you need to dip some kind of capsules in that machine. Now you don't need to dip any capsules. You will have a pre-filtration with a porous membrane. So they develop an entire design. The old designs are gone, but even though they can use that scratch for the new product development, so you need to think in a broad way. You need to think for 10 years ahead of your product, because the requirements of the people or requirements of the customer changes. So when you develop a product, you need to consider all these factors. So that's why I said market condition will change, the technology will change. At first I used the word nothing is permanent, like neither the technology nor the things we use, right? So that's why you need to consider all the things in it. So let's go to the what's the difference between projects and the products. As I said earlier, project is a superset of a product, but and the product is subset of a project. Like in these projects, there will be teams building a specific project, and in that team too, each team member might have allocated to different projects. He will be included working on many other projects too. You will have a specific end date for that. But when you go for the product, you will be in a R&D team, right? So in that you can't expect the results. You don't have a specific timeline for that. You need to wait till you get the outcome. So you will have a long-lived team that product, because no other team understands what you have built, or else they need to perform a reverse engineering on that. And knowledge sharing, like when you leave the company, you need to share your knowledge and the documents with the new team. That's called knowledge sharing or knowledge transfer. To be honest, they call the knowledge transfer. That's what. So products will have a long-lived team mostly. And like projects will have a clearly defined output, because you will have a Gantt chart and pre-planned project plan. But when you go for a product, even though you have a product plan, sometimes you cannot expect the estimated results, because like it's nature. You can't expect a thing to work as it works in the theoretically, as it worked in the simulations. So the outputs will be ill-defined and it's tough. You can't expect the thing. And the project requirement will be constructive or like defined before the raw materials or the team or the technicians or the funds. Mostly, I can't say every time, but mostly the project requirements will be underdefined. But products, it's like R&D, right? So when you are testing on a metal, it doesn't work. You need to go with the polymer, carbon fiber, but you didn't mention it in the product plan. You need to add it right now. So you can't expect what's gonna require. Like requirements will be evolving each and every time when you go for it's like research and finding, right? So it's just in the product R&D session, like only in the R&D term, your entire this thing happens. After the product development, it's just like marketing and publishing and deployment and like thinking about sales and requirements. But in that R&D term, there will be evolving requirements. You need a different polymer or different thing or different raw materials. You need to change the funding to. So like a project is led by basically a project manager, but led by a product manager, but these two collaborate each other when delivering a product into the market because the project manager will be monitoring the outcomes from the product management team and he knows when to launch the product. He'll be even dealing with the marketing team. So the project manager will have a different teams like when he launches and getting the customers. Like he has a team which gets the customers and he has a R&D team. He works with the marketing team, he works with the deploy team. So, this guy project manager will contact all these people. So the marketing manager will the he this project manager cooperates with the marketing manager, product manager, R&D manager, and the deployment manager, logistic manager, to be honest, for releasing a product in the market. That's what I said. Product is always, most of the times, product is subset of a project. So, the project will be output focused, and both the things are output focused. As I said, like you just recognize the need in the market, recognize the need in the society, and you plan accordingly. That's what both of them are output focused, and the value of the project will be delivered by at the end of the project. But in this, the ongoing gradual delivery of value. So when you just when you discover new things in this product development, the value of the product may increase because when you know that it can make more than the things you expected, you can increase the value of the product increase automatically, but the project will stays the same. You can't increase the funding of the project because they did it right. It's their responsibility to deliver the project on time. So it's just like the value will be the same. So this project will be focused internally. When I say internally, it's just like a managed over all the managers and all the teams. The project manager makes sure that the project is going properly with on-time schedules and with on-time results. He doesn't care about the market. And when you go product manager, marketing manager, he thinks about the customers externally. So they need to know what customers are thinking, what customers need. Then only they can develop or market their own products. That's why these guys focus on the customer needs and externally. They focus externally. So in projects, you most of the time you don't learn much, but when you go with the R&D, like products, you learn a lot. Like everything is a new way of learning. You expect some results, it doesn't work. You want to know how does it work, and why didn't it work. So this all is process of learning. So you'll have a lot of chance when you are in product development, but when you are in a management like project management, you have less thing to learn. It will be always learning about how to manage people, how to conduct the things, and how to deliver the products. But when you want to learn more technically, it can be in the product thing. So yeah, that's what when you go through the notes I have given, that's what project development and product development are different, are kind of similar strategies with various stages. They both have different stages, but when you observe closely, like macro level, when you observe it macro level, they both have a project and product plan. They both have a need. They need to identify the need. They need to have an idea. They need to have a plan. They need to have a proper Gantt chart. They need to have proper cycle. So when you observe it at macro level, they both look the same. But when you observe it micro level, they have their own different stages and they have different peculiarity. So when you want to that's I said, like when you want to bring a product into a market, we need to have a proper planning and strategy. That is done by various team. R&D team just develops the product. So the other team, marketing team and other team will try to launch the product in the market. So they work with other project line. Their project is to get their product into the market. That's what their project aim. So it has a dedicated aim over there. That can be called a project, and this is called product development. So I think have gone through everything. So yeah, that's it. So that's I hope you understand everything. I hope I didn't run fast. So I can share this PPT with the designated people. You can just know about it. If you have any doubts, you can just ask. So I'll just thanking the wonkovation technology for granting me this opportunity, and I thank everyone for attending this webinar with a lot of patience. Yeah, I hope I have reached the expectations with all my experience. So thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for giving a very good content. Actually, na, we are really very happy to have you. And also, now we have got an idea on the product development and also regarding
So
the project
I hope
development.
everybody understood the concept I was trying to explain. So
Yes, sir.
that's what the entire introduction. So I finished 30 minutes early, but
Yes, sir.
that's great.
So,
Yeah, Mr. Abdul Ahmad has said that like I watched it so late, I didn't concentrate. Yeah, that's a water control system. It was a great idea. He applied for the patent. I'm not in contact with that guy, but yeah, he might have got it. So that's what you need to recognize the need. Like when you go through the people or when you observe your surroundings, you get the need. So you get an idea. It's an instinct. You can't just change it. Then you develop a concept by considering many theories, and then you go for development. That's how it goes. So that's what the main aim of this webinar is to let them know how to prepare a project plan and a product plan, how to bring their ideas into existence. I hope I have achieved and I have done my level best to that. So yeah.
yes, sir. Actually, it's beyond expectations, sir. You have told almost data which we even don't know. Actually, most of the students doesn't have idea on types of projects actually. But you have explained those four types of projects at the same
Any
time. People,
doubts or like any suggestions or like I just want to take a review. It was like a well, should I go very slow or
no,
was I
sir, you
just
are
like
actually perfect over the content delivering, sir.
or do I need to change my accent or change my speed or rate of speaking? So any suggestions or reviews?
Actually, just a minute, sir. We'll ask people whether they have any queries on it.
Oh God, yeah.
So, guys, if you have any queries,
So
you can
thank you
just type it
for
in the.
giving me this opportunity. Yeah, sign off. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.